At the end of September, a quiet, almost unnoticed decision in The Hague shook the global economy. The Dutch government announced it was taking control of the Chinese-owned company Nexperia. This wasn't just any company. Nexperia manufactures millions of tiny, vital microchips, the kind of chips that run your car, your smartphone, and your energy systems. Officially, authorities claimed the move was for national security, but no one anticipated the consequences. China's response was almost immediate. Beijing saw this as an act of economic aggression. Within days, China's Ministry of Commerce announced the suspension of all microchip exports from Nexperia's Chinese plants. What had begun as a legal dispute instantly turned into an act of trade retaliation. Key components, transistors, and electronic control units were banned from export. These are the very chips that regulate braking systems, batteries, and dozens of other functions in a modern vehicle. European automakers, the giants of German engineering, quickly realized the depth of their dependency. Volkswagen, BMW, Mercedes, assembly lines that once symbolized Europe's industrial might suddenly became vulnerable. The German Automotive Association, the VDA, issued a stark warning. Factory shutdowns were imminent. Car plants across the continent, they reported, had chip reserves for no more than 3 to 4 weeks. Then the situation escalated. On October 23rd, Nexperia's Shanghai division, one of its largest units, declared independence from its Dutch headquarters. It was a full-blown corporate mutiny. The message from Shanghai was clear. China would no longer obey European orders. The German auto industry, the backbone of the European economy, was suddenly on its knees, paralyzed by a supply chain it could not control. The pivot, from Berlin to Detroit. But why should you care about this? Why should a factory worker in Michigan, a farmer in Iowa, or a retiree in Florida care about a corporate dispute in the Netherlands? You should care because what just happened in Europe is not a European problem. It was a dress rehearsal, a stress test, and the American auto industry is the main event. While Europe's giants were brought down by a dependency on microchips, America's vulnerability is deeper, wider, and far more dangerous. We are not just talking about the chips that run the dashboard. We are talking about the very lifeblood of the entire EV revolution, the core materials that Detroit, and even Tesla, are betting their entire future on. The Nexperia crisis was a warning shot. Tonight, we will show you the real target, the legacy vulnerability. First, let's talk about the chips. The American auto industry shares the same fundamental weakness as Europe's. For decades, the big three, Ford, GM, and Stellantis, formerly Chrysler, have relied on complex global supply chains. We aren't just talking about the advanced high-end semiconductors. We are talking about the cheap, simple, legacy chips. The chips that cost 50 cents, but without them, you cannot build a $70,000 truck. And the vast majority of these chips are packaged, tested, and shipped from one place, China. We've seen this movie before. Remember 2021? Remember 2022? Remember when you couldn't find the car you wanted on the lot? That wasn't just a sales tactic, it was a crisis. Ford had to halt production of the F-150, the most iconic American vehicle, multiple times. Why? A shortage of a handful of chips. Those shutdowns don't just happen in a vacuum. They mean lost shifts for workers in Dearborn, Michigan. They mean less business for the diners and small-town suppliers that depend on that factory. It's a ripple effect that hits American communities directly. And don't think Tesla is immune. Tesla presents itself as a Silicon Valley tech company, but its greatest manufacturing triumph is in Shanghai. The Gigafactory Shanghai is not just a factory for the Chinese market. It is Tesla's primary global export hub. Based on customs data, as of late 2024, the Shanghai plant has exported over 1 million vehicles globally. It accounts for a massive portion of Tesla's global production. This creates an uncomfortable truth. One of America's most valuable companies is deeply reliant on the goodwill of Beijing to build and ship its products to the rest of the world. So yes, the chip dependency is a massive problem. If Beijing decided to weaponize this supply chain, the auto plants in Michigan, Ohio, and South Carolina would grind to a halt. But this isn't even the real story. The chip shortage is a problem we know about. The real vulnerability is the one we are building right now. The new larger vulnerability. The real danger lies beneath the surface. It's hidden inside the battery and the motor of every single electric vehicle that America is racing to build. The entire U.S. auto industry has gone all in on the EV transition. Ford has its Model E division. GM has its Ultium battery platform. The U.S. government is pouring billions in subsidies through the Inflation Reduction Act to build new battery plants across the country. We are building a new American industrial future. But there's a fatal flaw in the plan. We are building the houses, but we don't own the foundation. Let's start with rare earth metals. It sounds complex, but it's simple. These are elements like neodymium and dysprosium. They are essential for creating the high-powered, lightweight, permanent magnets that make an EV motor efficient. Without them, you don't have a competitive electric car. Now watch where should look at the numbers. You might hear that China only mines about 70% of the world's rare earths. But mining is not the important part. Processing is. To turn that raw ore into a usable magnet, you need a highly complex, dirty, and difficult refining process. According to the International Energy Agency, IEA, as of 2024, China controls 91% of all rare earth processing. Let me repeat that. 91%. Your Made in America electric vehicle is, without exception, running on magnets made from materials processed almost exclusively in China. This is not a dependency, it is a total monopoly. But the vulnerability doesn't even stop there. It gets worse when you look at the battery itself. An EV battery is like a sandwich. It has two ends, an anode and a cathode. The anode side is made almost entirely of one material, graphite. According to the U.S. Geological Survey, USGS, in 2024, the United States mined 0 tons of natural graphite. We are 100% dependent on imports. And which country dominates the processing of that graphite into battery-grade material? China. What about the other side of the battery? The cathode. This side needs lithium and cobalt. Again, according to the IEA and reports from the Center for Strategic and International Studies, China doesn't have to mine the most lithium or cobalt. It just controls the refining of it. China processes over 70% of the world's lithium and cobalt. Do you see the pattern? We are building billions of dollars worth of new advanced battery gigafactories in states like Arizona, Tennessee, and Georgia. But all of them are designed to be fed with processed graphite, lithium, and cobalt that must be imported from China. We are building giant assembly plants that are completely beholden to a single foreign supplier. We've created a dual chokehold, one on chips for today's cars, and a second, far more powerful one on the battery and motor materials for all of tomorrow's cars. The stress test scenario. For the past year, this was a what-if scenario, a problem for analysts to debate. What happens if China stops exporting rare earths to the U.S.? Well, we don't have to wonder anymore. It's already starting. This is no longer a hypothetical. In April, and again just this month in October 2025, Beijing imposed new, strict export controls on rare earth elements and, crucially, the magnet technology made from them. The IEA has confirmed this. This is not speculation. This is Beijing quietly testing its new economic weapon. It's a shot across the bow. They are reminding the world, and especially Washington, who holds the cards. So let's run the full stress test. Imagine it's not just a minor control. Imagine tomorrow Beijing makes a similar announcement to the Nexperia chip ban. They declare that, for national security reasons, all exports of processed graphite and refined lithium are banned to the United States. What happens? It's not complicated. The new multi-billion-dollar EV and battery plants in Michigan, Ohio, and Texas would go dark. Not in months, in weeks. Ford's production of the F-150 Lightning stops. GM's new electric Hummers and Cadillacs stop. Tesla's gigafactories in Texas and California, unable to get motors or battery anodes, stop. Hundreds of thousands of American UAW and non-union jobs would be furloughed instantly. The entire green revolution and the economic transition that America has bet its industrial future on would be put on hold. not by American engineers, not by American workers, but by a policy decision made 7,000 miles away in Beijing. Think back to the 1973 oil crisis. Americans remember lining up for gas. We remember how a handful of nations in OPEC held the entire U.S. economy hostage. We learned our lesson and spent 50 years fighting for energy independence, and now in 2025, we have willingly walked into a new dependency, a dependency on the new oil of the 21st century, a dependency on China's battery materials. The hard truth and conclusion. The Nexperia crisis that crippled Germany's auto industry revealed a crack in the foundation of the West's industrial model. But what we have in America is not a crack, it's a canyon. In our rush to lead the EV revolution, the American auto industry has handed its single greatest competitor an economic weapon we have never seen before. While Europe showed its vulnerability to China's chip weapon, the American auto industry is even more exposed to a supply chain collapse. We are exposed not just by chips, but by the critical rare earth minerals and battery materials that power the entire EV revolution. We have built our future on a foundation we do not control. Is the U.S. auto industry dependent on China? The answer is not just yes. The answer is that this dependency has put American jobs, American manufacturing, and American economic security at the greatest risk it has faced in decades. The resonance loop and flywheel CTA. This is not a problem for the distant future. It is a problem of today. As we've just seen with the new export controls, the pieces are already in motion. Looking at the factories and jobs in your own state, what part of the U.S. auto supply chain do you believe is most at risk right now? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. But identifying this vulnerability is only the first step. The real question is, can America build its own supply chain before it's too late? In our next video, we will investigate the massive new plan to mine rare earths right here in the U.S. and whether it's already too little, too late. Make sure you are subscribed and have turned on notifications so you don't miss it.